Our top story tonight, the United States surpassing 10 million total coronavirus cases since the pandemic began. As one leading vaccine developer reports, its vaccine is far exceeding expectations.
Executives at Pfizer say its COVID-19 vaccine may be 90% effective, according to data from a study that included tens of thousands of volunteers. And it comes today as we learn of more than 105,000 reported new cases and more than 450 new deaths in the U.S.
It is the sixth day in a row that our nation has reported more than 100,000 new COVID-19 cases. These figures, according to Johns Hopkins University, it's more than double the daily new case numbers the U.S. was reporting in September.
Today's news about the Pfizer vaccine is being called one of the biggest medical breakthroughs in the last century. Now, to be clear, there is still a lot more work to do, but millions of doses could be available by the end of the year. News Nation correspondent Tom Negevin live for us tonight in Manhattan with more. Tom.
And just to give that some perspective, Rob, this is a process that could take 5 to 7 years. It's been 10 months, and the team at Pfizer says they're almost there. Nearly 44,000 people enrolled in Pfizer's vaccine study with effectiveness of over 90%. The company's CEO is not holding back, calling it a great day for science and humanity. This means we are one step closer to potentially providing people around the world with a much-needed breakthrough to help bring an end to this global pandemic. This is a first but critical step in our work to deliver a safe and effective vaccine.
Literally, we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to get through this month, make sure there's no other safety concerns, that the FDA approved the emergency use authorization.
Even though it was fast-tracked, the trial followed protocol. When phases 1 and 2 showed promise over the summer, there was no rush to release it, even as we saw another rise in infections. Instead, they waited for critical data from phase 3.
It's great to be able to discuss some optimistic and good news. We're very excited, but it's important to see the data, and that's what we're still waiting for.
The Pfizer vaccine was produced with German partner BioNTech. It uses technology never approved before, messenger RNA, to produce an immune response. The Food and Drug Administration says participants need to be monitored for side effects for 60 days, and the results still need to be peer-reviewed. Experts have been telling News Nation for months that the rollout would take some time.
This takes 2 separate injections, about 3 weeks apart. So even if they have 100 million vaccines available in December, that's only going to be sufficient to vaccinate 50 million individuals.
There are concerns about safety, which is why science is being painfully methodical even now, heading into the winter months when a vaccine is desperately needed. And while data is still being gathered, distribution issues still being worked out, there's incredible optimism.
I'm excited to hear it. It is a huge step forward to try and get this under control.
George Washington III survived COVID, but lost his father to it.
I can't be happier to hear that there's a possibility that no one else has to go through what my family's been through.
And it's a good time, health experts say, to remind people to social distance, to wear their masks, to wash their hands until the vaccine is more widely available. That's expected by the end of December. Millions of doses, then more widespread availability by the third quarter of 2021. Live in New York, Tom Negevin, News Nation.
Thank you, Tom. Joining us now is Dr. Stephen Thomas, one of the principal investigators for Pfizer's global phase 3 trial. He is also the chief of infectious diseases at Upstate Medical University. Doctor, thank you for being with us here on News Nation. 90% effective, there's no doubt that's promising. I heard some today even say that is extraordinary. This process, as Tom just said, usually takes years. So how are you and your colleagues able to develop a vaccine like this so fast?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I think it gets at the heart of why some people have some concerns. I think the first thing that you need to know is that, one of the reasons that it takes a longer time to develop vaccines is that companies need to try to mitigate some of the financial risk because it's a very expensive process that can cost over $1 billion to make a vaccine. What companies have done, either on their own, like Pfizer and BioNTech, or through Operation Warp Speed, is they have decided to take that financial risk. They're not taking safety risks, they're taking financial risks. And so things that are normally done sequentially are now being done in parallel, and that can quicken the pace of things considerably.
Well, Dr. Thomas, people are concerned about side effects with any vaccine. So what can you tell us about the risks with this one?
Yeah, so the report that was released by Pfizer in the press this morning said that there were no concerning safety effects on this first data review. What they're reporting primarily is efficacy, so that's the ability of the vaccine to reduce the risk of COVID disease in people who receive the vaccine compared to people who receive placebo. But when they submit information to the FDA, it's going to be a complete packet, not just with the efficacy data, but also with the safety data. And that, of course, is being compiled as we speak.
What is a realistic estimate on when this vaccine would be available to the public widely, excuse me?
Yeah. As you've heard, the CEO of Pfizer has said that he anticipates that there will be a submission to the FDA before the end of this month, and then the FDA is going to have to look at all that data and deliberate. And if they decide to issue an emergency use authorization, then I would expect that in the first or second quarter of next calendar year, there would be widespread distribution of the vaccine doses that are available.
As for the vaccine itself, is this something that would be annual like the flu shot, or would it offer longer protection? Do we know?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why, we're hearing some very, very promising data early on in the life cycle of this phase 3 trial. But people should remember these trials are 2 years in duration. And one of the reasons that they're 2 years in duration is because of we have to investigate excellent questions like the one you just asked. We call that durability of immunity or durability of protection. And the only way for us to investigate that is to vaccinate people and then to follow them long term. So what the durability of this vaccine is going to be, that remains to be seen. But we hope that it is not a seasonal flu scenario where you need to get a new vaccine every year. But the data will tell us.
Well, and doctor, as we've seen, this virus impacts people of different ages differently. So do we yet know if the vaccine will protect older people as well as younger people?
Yes. So this vaccine trial enrolled a very wide spectrum of ages, everywhere from 18 up to 85 years of age. And so when they start doing some of the more in-depth analysis and they look at the impact of vaccination on different age groups, then we'll be able to answer that question.
And real quickly, just last thing, the FDA approval, possibly emergency approval to fast track this. What is the next step? How does that process work?
Yeah, so the next step will be for Pfizer and BioNTech to compile, again, not just the efficacy data, but the safety data, manufacturing data, and then they will compile all of that. They'll put it into a package. It'll be submitted to the FDA. Again, we've been told as early as this month. And then the FDA will look at all that information, deliberate, and then make a decision.
The big question is if people will take it. How do you convince them?
Yeah, this is a very difficult scenario because we know from some of the polls that, less than 50% of Americans surveyed said that they would be interested in taking a COVID vaccine, even if it was approved by the regulatory agency that ensures that Americans receive safe drugs and vaccines. This is problematic because we know that vaccines don't save lives. It's vaccination which saves lives. And if we have a perfect vaccine but nobody takes it, that's going to be a losing scenario. So I think it takes leadership at the federal government level to instill confidence in the American people about the process by which the vaccine was developed and the transparency with which it was evaluated by groups external to the company who do this for multiple drugs and vaccines and everything else that ends up on the shelf. And so I think it's going to take leadership at the federal government level that we haven't necessarily had to date.
And hopefully an option on the table. Dr. Stephen Thomas, lead principal investigator for Pfizer's global phase 3 trial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, certainly the big issue here is public health. That is the big picture. But the timing of this announcement from Pfizer today has raised some questions, at least by a handful of people, because it's happening 1 week after the election. News Nation correspondent Joe Khalil joining us live from D.C. tonight with the facts of the story. Joe.
Yeah, Rob, we had really two political questions about this whole thing. One, as you mentioned, the timing of it, and two, whether or not this progress was part of Operation Warp Speed. So we're going to take both of them individually, and we're going to start with the second one. Was this a part of Operation Warp Speed? Because members of the Trump administration had been touting Warp Speed and its success as the reason for this announcement earlier today, at least a few members of that. Today, the vice president of Pfizer came forward and said that they had actually invested their own money from the federal government. They invested their own money in the research and development that ultimately led to this vaccine and the progress that we have now. They did also say that there is an agreement that they signed on to with the Trump administration that once they eventually have a successful vaccine, they're going to be selling it to the federal government for probably about $2 billion worth of doses. That would be roughly 100 million doses. So that's the clarification there. Now, here on Capitol Hill, we did talk to lawmakers from both sides of the aisle. Really agreed that this was a good thing, but they did want to tamp down expectations for a vaccine because, as we've heard already, they say it's not going to be the cure-all fix to ending COVID. Now, not everybody shared that optimism. In fact, today we did hear from Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, who tweeted out, quote, "The timing of this is pretty amazing. Nothing nefarious about the timing of this at all," right? So he's obviously speaking sarcastically there and sort of suggesting that Pfizer intentionally held out on announcing progress on this vaccine until Joe Biden secured enough votes to win the election. So there's that question about timing there, the president's son raising it. We also saw something similar from Texas Senator Ted Cruz. He tweeted today, sharing a New York Times story about the Pfizer announcement and saying, quote, "Why now?" Now, again, I mentioned we talked to lawmakers about this and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. So we're going to start off with what we heard from Texas Senator John Cornyn today.
No, it's good news, but this is going to take a long time to deploy the vaccine once it's finally approved. So it's an important step, but not a panacea.
So Cornyn there didn't buy the timing question or whether there was some nefarious motive behind this release. We also spoke to Democrat Chris Murphy today from Connecticut, and here's what he had to say about this release.
It's still going to be the better part of a year before everybody gets access to this vaccine, so it doesn't diminish the need to essentially rebuild our response to COVID when Biden is sworn in.
Now, for its part, Pfizer has said that they were just going as fast as the science could take them, and they denied letting politics at all get into this process. They say it was purely science. Now, just in the last 15 minutes or so, the president weighed in himself. So I'm just going to read quickly from his Twitter. He says that the FDA and Democrats didn't want to have me get a vaccine win prior to the election, so instead it came out 5 days later, as I've said all along, and he read off a couple of tweets actually about this subject. So the president is making those allegations, but again, Pfizer and the company itself and its executives are saying that this was purely science. Lawmakers on the Hill largely seem to agree with that. Reporting live tonight in the Senate, Joe Khalil, News Nation.